Hello everybody, good morning. Talking to you from Sugarland, but let's go over the Universal FMS. We have dual FMSs here. Let's go to the fuel page. We're here now, and what this box wants you to do right away is I already programmed everything, but the packs, it wants you to select the number of packs and their weights or their average weights. You could select either one of those and it's going to give you those numbers. It's going to walk you through to the next one, cargo. I selected 185, and then it jumps over to the fuel on board. Now sometimes it will have that for you, or you have to manually put it in. Right now we have the APU running, so it's counting down. Originally I put 3,900 in here, and you can see it's gone down to 3834. Sometimes if you try to put in the total amount, it may not let you. Like right here, I selected the fuel on board. Now it brings you to this. So what it wants you to do is put in individual numbers per tank. So I come up to there, and I'm going to roughly put in about 1,900 on number one and 18 and some change on number 2 engine. So let's try this here. So number one, I said 1,900, enter, and then you see it brought you to tank number 2. So 1850, and enter right here. 3750. Now I could return it. There she is right there. So this is page 1 of 5. So I could go next. The only thing here, what I'm going to do is put my ETA UTC. If you don't put that time in, it's going to show you arrival time that's going to be maybe off. So I selected line select key L3, and I'll come over here. If it's minus, you can see I scroll between minus and plus, and go into New Orleans, and it's -6 UTC 6, and just select enter. That's all you're going to do on this page. You can see it has some numbers for you: fuel on board and your endurance. 56 hours sitting here on the ground. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Just some good to know information. Now, this is a good page to use while you're in flight, in cruise. You could see what your overhead meaning at MSY, what you should be landing with. Depending on your SOPs, ours is 1,500 pounds, but more likely we have about, we're going to have about 2,000 pounds upon arrival, maybe 2,100. And that's going to fluctuate based off of altitude, throttle position, all that stuff. Next page shows your gross weight. Now you can back it up with your iPad. And that's really about it there. This one doesn't have a true perf like some of the other boxes at Collins. You can't put anything in here. Your perf for your V speeds, you're going to manually select up here, and I'll get into that maybe on this round here. So my flight plan, you can see here, leaving Sugarland on our M Malt departure. You look at your departure on your iPad, it'll show you all the waypoints. But if I wanted to change a runway, right now we have runway 35 selected. It doesn't show the runway other than our heading here, 350. But say I wanted to, a lot of times they'll change runways on you. They're like, oh, you need to change from 35 to 17. So flight plan, menu, depart, and then I would select the runway here, and you could see I would change it to 1, which would be runway 17. That would be entered here, line select right 2. But I'm not going to change that. And you can see the SID here, the MMALT 7 attaching at LLA. Go back to the flight plan. And we have 6 pages worth of waypoints here and into New Orleans. So you can see the LLA attaches to Audad, arrival into New Orleans. We selected the ILS runway 11 coming from the west. That's what the arrival and the approach plates want you to do. So again, if we're flying and we want to change, maybe they have a different runway for us. So again, flight plan, menu, and arrival, and you can see brings up your airport where you're landing, and then I would select line select 2 right, and then it brings up all the different runways, and that's how you would change your runway upon arrival. And it leads you into some other things with the transitions to the ILS or the RNAVs as well. A function that we use all the time. We may need to say we're on this heading 350 and they want you to go direct to Mookie instead of MMALT. So what we would do is DTO, look for Mookie 3. I'd highlight Mookie. Well, we're on the ground now, so it's not going to let us do it. So select 3 for Mookie, enter, and make sure if you're in heading, you would now select nav. Let's see. Sometimes they want you to go to a different waypoint that's not on your route of flight. You would select list, and usually they're in here, and you can see 1 of 10. So you would scroll through until you found it, or you could manually type it in on your route of flight. So the nav page is pretty important too. Just gives you kind of one over the world, what you're looking at for your next waypoint, as opposed to flight plan where it shows up to 5 of them. But over here to maneuver, this brings up a whole page here for your holding and the PVOR. The holding definition, if they give you a hold, which they did to us yesterday, and it tells you which fix. If this is the one you want, and these are the numbers, then you would leave it at that. If not, you would have to select the fix or the different waypoint, and then the instructions based off of ATC for the inbound or the radial hold. It'll tell you what kind of entry, and go from there. So get out of that. Now the PVOR is kind of a neat function that we use a lot to draw a line. So if I select the PVOR and say I want a line typically off of one of the initial fixes along the ILS or the RNAV, that way it draws a line on your screen so you could see it for intercept, or when you're coming close, that way you could proceed the turn if you're hand flying it. So if I wanted to do it off of Voodoo, I would select 8, or the line select down here, 8, or let's actually move to the page 2. Okay, there's M bug or mud bug and turtle. Those are the points along